Right, awesome. Welcome everyone to our first knowledge series for 2021. So excited to host you, whether you're joining on Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It promises to be an insightful, engaging session. My name is Mike Lisco, the founder of Flock Eventing Platform. We have a powerhouse panel joining us today who'll be sharing insights on event trends for 2021 and beyond. We're also joined by our lovely host, Tami Nkadimeng, who will be steering the conversation. We also have the Flock team in the background, ensuring that we have lots of engagement. So please keep those chats coming, and we'll be running out some competitions. So please look out for those. So I don't know about you, but last year this time really felt like a potato underground. The lockdowns had us all confused. It felt like we were slipping on banana skins. Really just all weird. It was really, really weird for us. But as an industry, we are strong, we are resilient, and we became warriors, and we overcame our adversities. So my hope for you today is that you gain some good insights into the trends, as the team has put a lot of research into putting them together. So with that, I'll hand you over to our wonderful MC, Tami Nkadimeng, which is a global message architect and the Women in Mice ambassador. Welcome, Tami. Pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Mike. I do believe we're going to have an amazing afternoon, so I'm asking you to please stay engaged with us so that you can learn. I see there's actually a chat from Veronica saying she's excited to be here. We're also excited to have everybody on board, and we can see the messages are really just streaming in. with people just happy to be here. Mpho says, hi, Tammy. Hi, back to you, Mpho. As Mike's mentioned, my name is Tammy Nkadimeng, and I'll be your moderator for today. We will have some amazing panel discussions, but I will introduce the panelists later on in our program. Now, I don't know about you, but if I have to hear the word unprecedented and the new normal one more time, I just don't know how to react anymore. And I say this because, yes, a pandemic hit us, but what now? We cannot stick on the same narrative. What do we do going forward? We have noticed that events are not going anywhere, so we need to learn the new way of hosting events. And that's why today we'll be sharing some trends for 2021 and beyond. As Mike has already mentioned as well, this is the first of many sessions that the Flock platform will be hosting. So I do encourage you to please follow them on their social media pages so you stay updated and abreast of when the next one will be. I'm going to give you some information right now for social media and take it down, not only to follow them after this, but because there's a competition, and I'll explain exactly how it works. So I encourage you to please follow them on Facebook at Flock Platform, and also on LinkedIn at Flock Eventing Platform. So that's Facebook, Flock Platform, and on LinkedIn, Flock Eventing Platform. Speaking about competitions, we do have winners and who have engaged in the social media competitions, and I'm going to announce them shortly. But before we go there, stay right there, Mike, don't go there. If you have any questions, please do ask the questions in the chat facility. We're not sure if we're going to get through all of them because we obviously want to share a lot of information of what you can do, but we'll endeavor to ask them. And if we don't get to them, the Flock team will gather the information and the questions, and they will then answer you after the session. They'll find some time during the course of the next few days. At this time, I would say, hey, please go to the bathroom. This is the emergency exit. I have no idea where you're joining us from. So just sit, relax, enjoy, and learn with us. As I mentioned, the competition winners from the social media pages are Chantal Kroster. Are you online, Chantal? You have to be online, and you have to let me know on the chat facility that you are online. Otherwise, we have to pick a different winner. Chantal, are you online? Yes, Chantal says, hi, Tommy, I'm here. Fantastic. You have won the social media competition. You're one of our winners. The team will make contact with you, and I will let you, so I hope you know what you've won, but maybe let me bring everybody else up to speed. We have a sponsor by the name of Sealand, and also Take a Lot. Now, Sealand focuses on gear and apparel, but is inspired by Cape Town. And it's also inspired by the love of adventure, and they really do focus on protecting the outdoors. So we really thank you, Sealand, for the vouchers that you have sponsored for our winners. Well done to you, Chantal. Woo-hoo! Somebody wrote. I will verbalize that. Our next winner from the social media pages is Simone Smith. Are you here, Simone? You have to write to me and tell me you've joined on, or else you forfeit your prize. So please write to me. We don't have an answer yet, but we'll be on the lookout. I'll ask the team to just watch out and see if Simone does respond. Sometimes technology gets the better of us and we are unable to respond when requested. So please, to the team, watch out. But if she doesn't respond during the course of this, we will then find an alternate winner, and we will then announce and get in contact with you. So with that done, I'm going to hand over to someone who's quite geared up to tell us about the event trends. But before we get to that, Eventing requires us to be engaged. And one of the ways we stay engaged is through polls, right? So I'm going to need you to be very interactive with me as we ask our poll questions. We're going to take them in 3 segments. This is the first one. I'm going to ask you a few questions and ask you to please respond to these questions for us to get the learnings and even the learnings really throughout this for the eventing space. So let's start off with the first poll question. What is your biggest challenge when organizing a virtual event? What is your biggest challenge? Is it attracting sponsors? Is it engaging the audience? Is it increasing registration? Or is it audio visual tech problems? Please answer so we're able to see. Wow, okay. Slap bang the same, 33, no, it's changing, just like life does. We'll give you another 20 seconds and then we have to move on. So let's count it down. I will give you 10 more seconds. Okay, we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it because it's about 50%. So I'm glad you've all joined in, because we have a speaker on our panel, and also who's going to speak about engaging with the audience, and some of our other speakers are going to speak about what tools to actually use to engage the audience. So we're really thankful that you've joined in, and we hope you're going to learn a lot. With that, I'm going to hand you over to Callie Haywood, who's in charge of client engagement for Flock platform, to speak to us about the eventing trends.
Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for the intro. Great, and exactly why we're here today. Things have changed so much since last year, as you've mentioned. We've got a couple of great panelists with us that are going to be going over, the new trends for 2021. So, in summary, before we get to them, I'm going to run through them as quick as we can and just give a bit of perspective and context to what everyone's talking about today. So first of all, trend number 1, safety in all areas. And this is for obviously our online events. This is our internet safety, our protocols, following the right protocols on our virtual events. And of course, using the right platforms to manage them. Of course, it goes without saying, for the physical events that are available, we are looking at focusing on following our COVID protocols and looking after our attendees' health. Great. Okay. Trend number 2, event bubbles. What are these? So these are our smaller events. These are easier to manage events. These are ones where we can almost guarantee that everyone's been COVID-free, pre-screened, and certainly isolated from everyone outside the event. These ones are generally experience-driven events. These are events that we can really easily attract a smaller group of people that feel safe on coming to a live physical experience. Works great in the travel industry. And of course, on those and smaller experiences are new micro experiences. Of course, these are more personalized experiences. These are the type of experiences that could even take place within larger events. Breakaway sessions, smaller sessions that are paid for at a bigger event, and allow a small group of people to experience something that perhaps wouldn't work in a larger crowd given the current conditions. Great. Moving more to the online side of things, creating virtual connections. There's, especially in the business side of the business world, people worry, are we able to still network? Can we meet people online? And of course, the answer is very much yes. Certainly within the last year, our virtual platforms have come a really long way to allow proper attendee networking and making connections, not just during the event, but some of our platforms allow, of course, for meeting people even before the event begins and keeping those connections quite easily after the event has finished. Great. Of course, the buzzword for the year and trend number 5 is hybrid events. Well, we certainly are seeing a lot more of these now. And as far as we're concerned, this is really going to be the way for the future going forward. I don't think hybrid events are ever going to stop happening. Yeah, it really just means taking a physical event, filming it, and allowing an online gathering of people to view the proceedings as well. Yeah, and in terms of creating a much larger audience, people can now attend that aren't limited to a geographic location. I certainly think hybrid is here to stay. Yeah, number 6 is our audio only option events. So, I mean, what is that? These could be your podcasts. These could be events that take place while another event is going on. So you could be traveling, you could be doing something else in an event, at a sports event, for example, and there's an audio only connection that you're connected and listening to, getting information while you're on the move. It's something that is really, we've seen a big takeoff in the last year or so. Great. Of course, number 7, creating really sophisticated virtual experiences. Right now, we're on a great interactive webinar, but yeah, as technology has increased tenfold in the last year, there's really now a number of more things to do than a straight stream. We're able to facilitate full business seminars, trade shows, look at full-on business expos as well. And yeah, beyond this, given time and technology, we'll soon see events allowing us to be fully immersed in a virtual environment, full virtual reality, and perhaps completely rendered in a 3D space. Yeah, to be able to interact with other guests and, of course, business attendees and the like. Cool. Number 8, yeah, really involves creating events that are diverse and inclusive. So, of course, first of all, this gives us access to a much bigger pool of speakers for our events, and yeah, along with that really allows us to bring in yeah, different views and, of course, innovative perspectives to events, and create events that are for everyone. Of course, we've had a lot of success in the last year with events that are now using quite sophisticated live audio translation. Before, we would have, for example, an English-only event, and it is only able to attract English people to it. Whereas now, yeah, through recent technology upgrades, it's quite easy for people of different languages to join into the event, click an audio channel, for example, in their home language or their foreign language, and listen to the event while joining into predominantly an event that's predominantly in another language, which is fantastic. Really increases the attendee base. Yeah, number 10 on the list of our 12 trends that we're looking at for this year is really making money through virtual events. Of course, whereas before we were limited to a time and a place at a physical event, now we can really advertise our events to anywhere in the world. When we're just talking about live audio translation as well, now we can look at countries, perhaps that didn't share or weren't able to share the same language. We can now monetize tickets for events really on a global scale. Of course, sustainability is something that's crept up a lot in the last few years, and yeah, with virtual events, this has made a big change to that. Of course, there's almost a zero carbon footprint for any online events. Of course, no traveling is required, and any usual waste byproduct of physical events is avoided as well. So yeah, I mean, something to think of, yeah, when creating an event. Can it be virtual? Can it be green? And of course, yeah, last on the list, number 12, we've got physical gifts for a virtual event. So we've tried this ourselves with some great success in our last webinar series. Yeah, really just getting the audience involved, sending them a gift box or a snack box before the event begins. Perhaps they're having a cocktail evening, and what a pleasure to open up a couple of airplane bottles at home from the comfort of your couch while joining in the cocktail networking evening online. So yeah, physical gifts and branded goods are really here to stay with virtual events. Great. So yeah, that's the summary of our trends. We've got a fantastic group of panelists that are now going to delve deeper. Thanks so much, Tammy. Back to you.
I love that. Back to you, as if we're in the newsroom. Thank you so much, Kelly. Now, if you had your eye on the prize for social media, I'm sorry, I'm bearer of bad news if you had your eye, because Simone is online and she has claimed her prize. So we now have 2 of our social media winners. But if you'd like to win, I do have 2 more prizes I'm going to be giving away throughout this event. And I'm going to ask you to just be very engaged, and on our social media platforms, on the chat, just be very engaged. You can write what you want, when you want, however you want, just be engaged, and we'll announce those winners towards the end of the program. We need to speed up and catch up with time, so I'm going to ask us to just quickly go into another poll question, and then we will move on to the panel discussion. So I'm going to ask us to just do 2 poll questions and then move on to the panel discussion. The first question, it will come up. Okay, we seem to be having technical difficulty. Oh, there we go. There we go. Do you see virtual event industry having a positive impact on your business goals this year? Yes or no? We're going to give it 15 seconds. So fast fingers. Do you see virtual events industry having a positive impact on your business goals this year? I'd love to believe the answer is yes. All of you say yes, so that's fantastic. And even in the comment section, we're getting yes, yes, yes. So you all believe that you're in the right space. Thank you so much. Let's go on to the third question rather. We even got a most definitely. I love that. Let's go to the third question. I think the team is just putting it up. While the team is putting up the poll question, I'm going to introduce you to the panelists that we have for today. Okay, never mind. Let's go to the question. Which of these technology trends do you think is most important to our industry this year? Event apps, hybrid events, virtual platform, or all the above? I'm going to call it. We're already over 50%. So you all believe that we need event apps, we need hybrid events, and we need virtual platforms. I'm going to call it an end to the poll for this session and introduce you to our group of panelists, really incredible people. Some have met briefly, some have known for the longest time. So you really are in for a treat and to learn. Firstly, we have Tracy Hurst, who is Chief Marketing Officer from PSG. Then we have Steve Pinto, who is the CEO, so that's Chief Executive Officer for New Reality. Then we have Herky Dupré, event professional. He calls himself event professional. I think he's an event genius from Event Wizards. We have Andrew Henwood, who is Director of Cybersecurity Services from Black Rhino. And definitely last but not least, we have Peter Geldenhuys, who is a travel and tourism expert, and he's from Shoshen Walks. Welcome to all of you. Unfortunately, we can't unmute all of you at the same time. So I'll start with you, Tracy. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, and let's start the conversation here. Have virtual events and meetings benefited PSG? Have they? And if they have, how?
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, thanks, Tammy. First of all, PSG is in the financial services space, right? So, I mean, what would you rather binge watch? Like your Netflix series or like what happened in the markets? Like tough crowd, right? So, but in July last year, we launched a series with the Flock platform called the Think Big series. And I was amazed that in July last year, we reached more people in 1 month than through face-to-face events throughout the whole of the calendar year in 2019. So, I mean, that's really just indicative of the potential reach that one can get. And then just in terms of like cost effectiveness, you know, we obviously got the data at our disposal. And if you look at the cost per registrant or the cost per viewer, you can't even host a face-to-face event serving tea and biscuits for that amount. You know, it's cheaper than a Woolies for 2 dinner night in, you know, type thing. So, and our business is spread across the country. So we had to get like 1,000 financial advisors completely operating seamlessly. And we did through the likes of Teams and Zoom. We adopted the various platforms seamlessly. So yeah, I mean, I just back to events. I mean, I think we've had amazing content and external speakers. We've been able to access more thought leadership. And we've had an amazing awareness through digital advertising. So the campaign, the Think Big series, the virtual event becomes the central thought, and then the social media and the digital advertising, the display works around that. You know, the public relations, that works around that. I'm very interested to hear some of the tips that Hatke's going to give us later in terms of the engagement that one can get out of social media, because I mean, that's pivotal. So yes, 100%.
Fantastic. Before we get to Hatke, you know, you touched on a very interesting point about the data, potato, the data that you gather from these virtual events. And I'm going to come through to you, Andrew, and ask you to unmute yourself. We've learned how to gather this data, but how do we actually manage it?
So I think, thank you, Tammy. I think you mean how do you manage it securely, I think is the key word we're looking for there. So look, from that perspective, I always say to people, you know, you've got to understand what you're storing. Because if you don't know exactly what you're storing, it's very difficult to protect that data that you're gathering through these events. And you know, there needs to be an exercise where you kind of map out the flow of that data. You know, how are you deriving the data? You know, is it opt-in? Is it opt-out? Is it, you know, mailer lists? And once you've kind of ascertained what that data is, you need to kind of quantify it down to whether it's personal identifiable information. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit later. I'm sure many of the folks in South Africa are all aware of Poppy, Papaya, as they now call it. You know, this is coming and becoming really important because of the legislative implementation middle of this year. So going back to the original question, you know, you need to understand what this data is that you're storing. You need to classify if it is actually sensitive. And if it is sensitive, we need to take steps to protect it. And I really want to emphasize this. There's no magic wand or, you know, silver bullet we can fire off, which will just take care of this for you. We all have a responsibility of making sure that the sensitive data is handled properly. And what we mean by properly is we mean securely. So there's no right or wrong way to do this, but there are certainly steps that you need to take as a you know, a diligent corporate or end user citizen to make sure we enhance the security around that data.
Thanks for that, Andrew. Sometimes, though, the shift can change and we can be so focused on collecting the data and forgetting that events were really about engagements as well. And some of the business, you know, initiatives that come up during live events. So I'm going to come to you, Hatke, and say, you know, why is it actually important to engage with people online?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Tammy. So yes, firstly, the importance of engagement. It is absolutely important because people need to feel like they are part of something. And for your event to not be boring, if your event is boring, I mean, it's going to be so easy for me to just log off. At an actual live event, it's much easier to stand up. It's so difficult and actually embarrassing to get up from the crowd and walk out. But if your virtual event is not engaging enough for me, if it's going to bore me, or if it's not going to give any value, if it's not going to have a value proposition for me, I'm just going to close. I'm going to press exit and I'm going to leave. I have also, I mean, we can also now view the events on demand. But I mean, I have recorded probably about 20 events and I haven't watched one because I always ask myself, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? And is it going to add value to it, to what you're going to give me? And who am I going to meet? So another big thing with the engagement is networking. I mean, we want to network, we want to do business at the end of the day. So yeah, I think the importance of engagement is really, it should be on top of everyone's list.
You talk about networking And I take a word from that network, right? We clearly have a digital divide in our country in terms of people actually having access to not just watching events, but also attending these events. And I'm going to come to you, Steve, and ask you the question. What are the barriers of entry for event planners wanting to run events online?
Well, I suppose it always depends on the medium to which you want to engage your audience. I think that the challenge globally is usually, the kinds of technology that you have available to you. You're always limited by the lowest common denominator, the person who has the worst phone, the worst internet connection, and subsequently those are your barriers to getting mass scale. In South Africa, we have, a prohibitively high cost of data. So if you don't have, fiber at home, the cost for you to be live streaming or involved or even to, put on events, it's too prohibitive. You can't get to that point. And, the case with technology is that, technology, it grows at an exponential rate, right? So every year things get better and better and better. However, there's a life cycle. A laptop that you may buy today, you may keep for 7 to 8 years. And then when you're trying to develop software or you're trying to create experiences or you're trying to create, cutting edge technology, you're only going to be able to access the people that actually have the most high end range of the tech. And that's, an inherent problem we all experience all over the world. Some people are still comfortable using their iPhone 6 and their laptop they had in high school. They're still fine doing that. And yes, you can read your emails and you can watch some YouTube videos, but can you make the most immersive experience with the most high-end audio, the best camera quality? Can you do that? No, you can't. And subsequently, the experience is decreased for everyone involved. You can't design your experience for the best tech. You have to design it for the worst that you assume everyone has.
I feel like you called me out in front of everybody because I'm one of those. Technology is not my thing. I'm carrying around a phone that costs about 100 Rand. You could see it through my eyes, right? I'm biased with a lot of industries, but tourism is one I'm very biased with, being an ambassador for Women in MICE. And I've heard a lot of industries say that they're the most hard hit, but never have I heard it as much as I've heard it from tourism. They'll say, we were the first shut, we're now the last to open. And so, Peter, I'm going to come to you and ask you this question. How can online events actually save the travel and tourism industry? And can it globally?
Well, my wife likes to, the tagline for our business is we choreograph connection. So not just for tourism, but for everybody, our job is to choreograph connection. Yeah. And a big part of that is to get out of our box, and we're no longer the sage on the stage, right? Because we can't hold the room physically. We need to be the guide on the side and let our audience do a lot of the work. So what we do is interactive tourism, online events. One of my colleagues was up on Table Mountain last week doing 150 people on a online tour of Table Mountain, and it turned from an immersive physical tactile thing to a high educational interactive session. And that's the shift that we've had to make in the tourism industry. There are people running safari trips from their vehicles, but high engagement where you let your audience participate in a big way is massively important. Less me, more you.
Less me, more you. I love that. Powerful. You were like, less me, more you, drop mic. That's what I mean. I love that, Peter. That's it. So I would love for the audience to leave with some practical tips. And so I want us to get into a little bit of a practical space for all of them. So I'm going to come back to you, Tracy, and ask you this question. For some of those who are trying to mold their events to sell them to clients and perhaps use the tips that you're about to give for the next question to even market themselves and sell themselves to clients. From a marketing perspective, how have virtual events changed the way that PSG markets? And we don't even need to stick to PSG. It could be any organization that you know. How has it changed the way that organizations actually market themselves and to their markets?
Yeah, so I mean, let's start by looking at what we've got at our disposal, right? So I mean, there's such low readership stats when it comes to emails. Emails is not your foot in the door. The social media environment is becoming incredibly cluttered. If you look at traditional media, I mean, gone are the days where you can make a TV ad and put your feet up and think like your job as a marketer is done. So radio, out of home, airports, all of those mediums are struggling. So you've got to be a lot more dynamic. And I spoke earlier about, using potentially a virtual event as your central campaign theme and then using everything else around it. I mean, if I look at my budget pre-COVID, 45% of my marketing spend was scheduled to go into face-to-face events. That dropped down to, a minimalistic number. So, I mean, there's so much opportunity in the webinar space. So yeah, for me, and I actually thought I'd coined the phrase hybrid. Kelly kind of took that away from me. Trending words. I thought I'd come up with it. But I mean, there's such a future for hybrid events going forward.
I know that we have a lot of event planners and people who are actually on the other side of preparing events. But what we also need to start doing is finding the value add that we can give to our attendees. And possibly one of the things that is not very spoken about is warning the attendees on what to watch out for on online events so that they're aware, before attending your event. So I'm going to ask you, Andrew, to just unpack that for us. What should attendees be aware of when attending online events?
So I think this is a great question. And if I just quickly explain, what I'm seeing a lot in the industry at the moment is that a number of large corporations are pushing to ensure that everyone in the supply chain is doing their bit around cybersecurity. And I think this extends very well to the online event platform and the whole webinar we're talking about today. So as an attendee, we all need to do our bit to ensure that we are maintaining a secure ecosystem. So what do attendees need to do? They need to be doing the things that are very much established best practices. Make sure your system is patched. Make sure you're running antivirus. Make sure you're only installing applications that you trust the source of where they're coming from. We all need to encourage good digital hygiene because we're all part of the same ecosystem. And unfortunately, there's no time like the present where unfortunately the weakest link is always the one that causes the issues. It's a bit of an obvious statement. But as an attendee, you definitely want to make sure that you are doing the basics that are kind of established best practice.
Just on cyber. So when you say cyber, I get completely baffled, and I'm sure there's a couple of people who've joined on. Steve, let's go right to the beginning. What is the difference between AR and VR, and how does that relate into the eventing space?
Okay. All right. So the difference between augmented and virtual reality is pretty clear, but it's a little bit hard for people to understand because they've never had that experience before. But let's say I have this world in front of me, right? So I have this table in front of me. I've got the walls. I've got all the stuff that's in my physical space. But now I want to add digital content. I want to add, 3D models, or I want to add some, live feeds for the weather. I want to watch YouTube video. Everything that I add to my environment around me is augmented reality. I'm augmenting my reality. And when we create virtual reality, I actually remove the entire environment around me and I submerge myself into a world I've created. So if I wanted to go diving at the bottom of the ocean or fly a spaceship, through space, I would be in VR. If I was trying to be productive and, visualize a 3D model of a product that I want to buy from a company somewhere, I can do that in AR. And subsequently, the people around me could also use AR headsets to see the same object. And you can start to, add digital content around you. We all use one of these every day. And, what AR is going to do is going to break this and bring it to everywhere around you. And what VR is going to do is it's going to make you believe you are completely in a different place to where you are. So if you wanted to, look at Barcelona and see what a trip was going to be like to Barcelona, you could put a VR headset on and walk the streets of Barcelona and get an idea of what it would be like, before you actually got there. But you would get a notification on your AR glasses to say you're about to miss your flight. Those are the kind of distinctions where you would see the two and where they would find, their use in your everyday life.
Yeah. Peter, do you think that virtual tours could help the tourism space? Are they effective?
just a engagement tool at the moment. There's no real revenue in it, but it's a way to stimulate engagement until, look, tourism is always going to be going somewhere. Total recall notwithstanding, you're never going to be able to immerse in the same way. I mean, I never say never, but for our lifetime, people will be jumping on flights to go to places. So we're just doing placeholder engagement right now to make sure our customers are ready, are gagging the moment for the opportunity to get on a plane and come visit us. So I don't think it's a revenue thing, it's an engagement thing.
I love that you end on engagement, because Hanky, I want to come to you and say, how can event planners then heighten engagement using real life experiences? Because we don't get to see each other in real life. So how do you use real life experiences to then engage?
So we've seen the conference box that gets delivered. So that's a nice tool to have. If you have a conference, send the conference box, make part of the props part of your conversation of what's happening. Then I'm gonna actually reference one of the events that I did is bring emotion into it. If you can make somebody laugh or smile or cry, you win. So what we actually did for one of our events, as part of entertainment, we actually replaced the whole entertainment skit with dances. We replaced that, and we went out and we recorded the presentation. So it was a group of young professionals presenting projects for the company. And we went out to their families. We recorded their families without them knowing it, asking them a few questions, giving them shout outs, some really valuable emotional content. And on the event day, when the presenters were standing on stage, they didn't know what's happening, and then they just saw the video popping up with their parents cheering them on and saying, well done, thank you. And that made everyone burst into tears. The emotional experience that event had, which is a real life experience and so simple to do, it was the most talked about thing after that event. So use the people you have, use real people, engage with their families, and engage with the people you work with, involve as much people as possible, and bring them into the event.
Are you done? No, I'm joking. I'm going to break the rules a little bit. So we were meant to go into the polls, another poll, but I think we're having so much fun just learning. So let's continue, and then we'll do the poll right at the end, because we're really in the meat of the conversation. So I do apologize to the team. I thought that if I do that, then they wouldn't shout at me behind the scenes if I ask in front of everybody. Tracy, you know, a lot of people have lost money, you know, and it's impacted a lot of companies. And so when you come with event technology, people, one of the first things they'll ask is, what is the return of investment? How can event technology help in measuring and tracking, you know, the marketing initiatives, and also measure the return of investment for a business?
Tough question. You know, I've been in marketing for almost 25 years, and I'm yet to see anyone that can solve this ROI debate. I don't think anyone's going to give you a true answer. But I think that, look, in the virtual event environment, you've got so much more data at your disposal. So like, that's the first thing. And it's very immediate, and often the consumers are giving it to you, so it's much more reliable. So even the qualitative data it's much easier to analyze it. So that's on the upside. I mean, I think just looking at some of the speakers that I've engaged with over the last couple of months, I mean, you can see the ones that are attracting registrants versus those that are attracting actual attendees, and that sit through the entire hour session. And then, I mean, if you just look at even email addresses, you can see the type of industries you're attracting through those different speakers as well. So, yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier about the cost per registrant and the cost per viewer. So look, you've definitely got a lot more data at your disposal. I think webinar fatigue is also very real. I mean, when we started our series, we were looking at like 90% attendance rates. That's like down to 50%. So there's a lot more competitor activity now. So you've got to be unique. You've got to differentiate yourselves from others out there.
I like the word attract, right? And I'm going to stay on that, attract, and ask you this, Peter. How can online event planners turn micro events into something that's macro when ticket sales are limited? How do they do that? Maybe you can just give us just a guide and a step by step.
The question is how to turn an online micro event into a macro event.
That's it.
In the tourism space, or generally speaking?
I think you can answer it both ways, because we don't just have people from the tourism space, right, who have logged on.
It's the metaphor of the the coach tour versus the bespoke travel arrangement where you a couple or a family. The reality is less will always be more in terms of experiential engagement. The bigger the crowd, the harder it will be to deliver the same quality in this medium specifically. When you're in a physical medium, large crowds has an energy quotient that enhances the experience. But in online, I just don't see a way around effectively making it as good on a macro level as it is on a micro level. So or whatever the technology looks like, to have duplicated events, that you have more micro situations within, and that's breakout rooms probably is the easiest way to explain it. More effective use of breakout rooms. You can have 1,000 people in the room. If you set them up into smaller groups effectively with a clear mandate, you could take it to a bigger crowd. And I hope that answers the question. You need to break the macro event down into micro events to deliver quality.
Yeah. So I wonder then on engagements, if less will be more or more will be more, because we're all now fighting to keep people, interested in what we have to say. So in saying that, Hattie, what trends do you think we're going to start seeing in the future when it comes to engagements? And which ones would you say the audience must watch out for and make sure they implement before they burst out into the environment so that they can be ahead?
Okay, so definitely hybrid events, we know that's the way for the next year or two or going forward. Hybrid events are always going to be there. But what I think we should realize is that your event doesn't need to be 1 or 2 hours or 4 hours. You can actually use the digital space and stretch your event within a week. You can take time, because remember, everybody is now working from home. They have their own diaries. Not everybody can do certain things at the same time. It's hard to get a lot of people in one place. So by giving people power to participate in some of the event elements prior to the actual event is a brilliant concept. And we've done this recently, where we actually recorded all the business presentations about the event. Prior to the event, we loaded it up onto the platform. We sent people to watch the videos before the event, submit their questions, which was great because we gave them all a voice. The feedback from the client was, never in their entire life of doing live events have they had so much business feedback. People engaging, people asking questions, because now people are behind the scenes. They can type an anonymous question and actually give valuable input to the company. And so that can all happen way before your event. You can stretch your engagement for a long period of time up until the event. In the event, you can summarize the crucial content that you got out of the feedback, and then even stretch that afterwards as well. So your event longevity can be long before and after the event. So I think that's a really cool trend, is to not just focus on 1 or 2 power hours, use online space, and give everybody that power to participate in your event in their own time.
So I'm going to ask you to stay on with me, because there's a question, and I think it's quite valid, on the chat that says, so have you seen uptake in breakaway rooms? Are people actually participating in breakaway rooms?
No, not really. So look, people look for people to network with. So if they break away, it will be to somebody specific. They will point them out, they'll find them, and they will not really engage with them in that event time, because they have to obviously pay attention to what else is happening. So they will connect afterwards.
they'll connect afterwards. Andrew, can we really say to our attendees that there's complete security when they attend online events? Is that even possible? Is it something we can sell as a value add as event planners and say, our event has complete security?
No, don't ever say that, please. Well, in fact, there is an easy way to ensure complete security. It's just don't run the event and just don't collect anyone's data, which I think is a bit pointless for the conference we're having right now. So look, I'm saying that flippantly. Now, let me be serious about it. I always say to people, remember we're part of an ecosystem, and we all need to do our part to ensure that we're taking security seriously. And I think all these great initiatives, like, I call them great, POPI, GDPR, all these kinds of good things, are encouraging us to take cognizance of the fact that we're collecting sensitive data. And I think that's the biggest outcome that these standards, compliance standards, security standards, is driving awareness. And the good thing now is event planners are now realizing we're handling sensitive data. And just by realizing and appreciating that we're handling sensitive data, I think that you can use to send a great message to your audience. To say, listen, we're cognizant of the fact that we're going to be collecting your sensitive data. We will take steps to protect it and ensure we won't share it. And we recognize our responsibility. Make that kind of statement. Please don't say we're unhackable and we're completely secure, because mark my words, there are a lot of folks out there who take that on as a challenge. So we always say to people, just don't put yourself out there as a target, but appreciate and be vocal about the fact that you recognize the responsibility you have of handling the sensitive data. And I think that's the way to approach this.
And it catches you off guard. I remember I planned an event for Women in Mice, and we got hacked in the middle of the event. It was such a shock to my system that for a whole week I didn't want to go on online events because of what we saw. It's absolutely crazy what people can manage.
Tammy, if I can actually just mention something on that, I think that's a great example that you've given there. I always say to people, it's far better to be prepared and expect the unexpected. And I'm sure you guys must appreciate this from an event planning perspective. Something's always going to go wrong. And it's the same with cybersecurity. Hopefully, and I hope I'm getting this message across, I want all of you guys to be thinking about cybersecurity. Think of what would happen. How would you deal with it if during the event someone came on and Zoom bombed the event, or posted something inappropriate? And as long as you've thought through that process beforehand and you have a plan of how we would deal with that, then you won't be stuck there with a mouthful of teeth while everyone's scrambling to try and block the screen. Because it's a reality. We are going to get hacked. You run an event. People are going to target you. They're going to attempt to do things. So plan for the unexpected, especially from a cybersecurity perspective, and it'll stand you in far greater stead.
I like that. Expect the unexpected. So we want people on the call to expect what is expected. Do you think, Steve, we should expect AR to then be a staple in the industry?
100%. I think that. Look, let's take a step back and think about why events were so popular, why we enjoyed them, and why we're craving, the interactions we used to have. We had the ability to walk into a room, to see people, to network, to listen to something special, being said on stage. Then to, like on a trade show event, you could walk around, you could touch and feel objects, you could see things. All those things are kind of missing right now when we're stuck, in our homes, interacting over a screen. I think that while we're talking about hybrid events are exactly what the world is moving towards, because it's an obvious demand that's being filled. But that same social necessity that we have as human beings also needs to be filled. So we want to touch and feel. We want to see what it is that this product is being shown to us, or we want to get an experience about what it is. And we don't have the ability to have it in a physical space. So using techniques like augmented reality can do so. You could take out your phone, and if you're at a trade show and you wanted to show your potential clients what your product looked like, you could use AR to do so. So you could extend, from the digital platform that you're creating a hybrid event from, you can now share AR links, or you can, build an app that you can send a link out, and then someone can start to physically experience what that object would look like. And you have a little bit more control of, what your experience is that you're trying to create for your customer. In virtual reality, it's somewhat the same. You want to show somebody what the space would look like. You want to take them on a factory tour, or you want to kind of give them a control of an environment to keep them engaged. When I'm looking at the screen in front of you, I can still see everything else around me and everything else is still distracting me. But when I put on a VR headset, I'm fully immersed and I'm fully focused in what I'm doing. And I can now have an immersive experience as close as I could have to a physical event. And these hybrid events have been an amazing thing because we've been able to participate in shows that we would never be able to go to. We would be able to participate on panels that we would never have been invited to. There was, an absolute explosion in the number of events that were here, and nobody's really paid for, these big, expensive corporate events that used to happen that you used to pay exorbitant ticket prices to go to anymore. Everyone's put it online, and a lot of people have made it free. And that's create a whole new accessibility for the masses to engage and interact with each other. But there's still that physical social level that's missing, and AR and VR tech can fill those gaps. AR can show you what that physical object, or give you control to show you this physical object to your to your patrons or to the people who are attending your event. And then virtual reality can immerse them into a space of your choosing. So if you want to show them something and you want them to have a full experience, giving the ability to use virtual reality in the next few years will create a whole new tool that you can use to engage and to show exactly what you want to your audience.
Thank you so much, Steve. I'm quite sad because we've now come close to the end, and that's all that I can discuss with you. I think we could go on about this for a very, very long time, but unfortunately, we have to call it an end on our panel discussion. Now, I hope you have been engaged on all the pages in the chat on social media. I will be announcing the winners shortly, and also the last competition for the day. But I think let's go into a poll question. Let's do a poll question real quickly. If the team is ready for a poll question, can we put that up, please? There we go. Which of the below do you think will increase attendee engagement at a virtual event in 2021? Do you think chat and poll participation, session ratings and feedback surveys, sending through a selfie, or social media mentions? Which one do you think will increase attendee engagement at a virtual event? It's moving, but I'm going to call it. I mean, 80% of you have said chat and poll participation. So I'm glad we've allowed for chat and poll in the comments as well. We're getting chat and poll, chat and poll. So in that case, let's ask one more question in the poll. Let's ask one more poll question. What do you think is the best way to protect attendees from cyber threats? What's the best way to protect attendees from cyber threats? It's moving. It seems like people feel that set up two-factor authentications, to set up a two-factor authentication. So please do consider that when you are planning your events. Now, I did speak about us having winners, and we have identified 2 winners from being the most engaged. I see the team wants to ask more questions. So shall we do this last one? Let's do this last one. Do you think that AI or machine learning will positively impact your business in the next 3 to 5 years? Quite a quick answer. Yes. There we go. Yes. Fantastic. We've got a few minutes left, and I'm going to then just run through the winners for the most engaged people. We have our winner, Larissa Rousseau from CTICC. Are you still online, Larissa? Just write yes, and then the team will make contact with you to give you your vouchers. But what we're also going to do is we're going to give a donation to the charity of your choice, a 1,500 Rand donation. So please make sure that you contact the team and you give them then the charity of your choice. Larissa, are you here? I am indeed, she says. There she is. I am indeed. And then the second winner for the most engaged is Zulu Wanda. Zulu Wanda, are you still here? I saw you writing quite a lot of comments. Are you there, Zulu? Yeah! I'm just putting in the effects for what he's typing in because he can't respond. So please do make contact with the team and let them know the charity of your choice. We do have 2 more winners that we will announce, but obviously offline. So we'll be sending out a survey and we ask you to please fill out the survey and we'll have a random draw for another 2 winners and the team will make contact with you and we hope you enjoy your prizes from Sealand and from Take a Lot. With this, I'd like to say firstly, thank you to Flock Platform. Thank you, Hattie. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Kelly. Until the next session, goodbye, stay safe, wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, keep healthy.